I actually had a person contact me through social media after I made the first of these videos about the afterlife, describing a really powerful experience, what is known as a near-death experience. And my reaction to that, I want to begin by talking about that right now because I have the same reaction that I talked about when I did the video on angel voices versus the voice of conscience. That is to say, if you have some kind of supernatural experience that's very, very powerful to you, something that you'll never forget and it changes your life, far be it from me to doubt you or to disparage that or to laugh at it. I maybe in a way I envy you. I think sometimes I've never had an experience like that, but sometimes I've had dreams that were very powerful to me. But there's the thing. I can't talk about my dreams to other people and expect those to weigh with them as objective evidence. Now, you can't really talk about objective evidence on this subject because what is objective? An object, it's out there in the material world around us. When I hear people talk about proof of the afterlife, they're talking about objective evidence, I assume. Well, there's no such thing because the afterlife, by definition, is not of this world. So we're not going to be able to have recourse to objects and their interactions, and we're not going to be able to record evidence about them and present that to an audience and say, as it were, scientifically, you see, I told you so. This is the proof. We have that experience that we'll never forget, but the difficulty in an undertaking like I'm trying to do here is to share that with other people who may be skeptical. They may not read the Bible, they may not be Christian, they may not believe in any God at all, they may be atheists. And I'm trying to present all of these videos for any person who's just curious and wants to know more about the subject of God, about the subject of the metaphysical. So in this particular video, I want to reiterate, to start with, what we've already said about time. I've entitled this one, How Clocks Run in Heaven. Time is a category that our minds use to understand the here and now, and it's very effective. We can do science, we can do history when we arrange things on a linear progression of cause and effect. However, we find that if we try to use that kind of reasoning to get outside of the material world that we're enclosed in, we can't make it. We reach dead ends. And we've been through this. I talked about it in my video where I reviewed Immanuel Kant's antinomies. At the beginning of the universe, we have what? A Big Bang, a first cause. Obviously, there has to be something that originates all the successive moments of the cosmos. Or does there? I mean, it's an eternal precept of all philosophy, an axiom, nihil ex nihilo. Nothing comes of nothing. Where did the Big Bang come from? From nothing? It has to have been the effect of a previous cause. Well, we have right there an example of the door slamming on our human intelligence's attempt to probe the nature of time outside of this temporal world. And we can't get there from here. We can't do it. Same thing with, I talked about how at the end of the universe, and this isn't exactly Kant, but it's a suggestion that I made, that when we come to the state where everything is at last all spread out, complete stasis, there's no more movement, there's no more heat, there's no more energy, absolute zero, that state is going to go on for infinity. So statistically, that we should be here before that absolute zero state is a virtual impossibility because it goes on forever. So how can we not be there? How can we be in this little bitty minuscule, infinitesimally small instant before nullity? Or even if you look at the universe as expanding and contracting, the oscillating universe, well, then you've done away with the need for a Big Bang in subsequent rebirths of the universe, but there's still the originary Big Bang that started up all the expand, contract, and we're right back in the same conundrum. So our intelligence does not guide us accurately, reliably. It's not that it does not, it cannot give us direction into ultimate reality. And we're confined by that. I think we are therefore somewhat licensed to speculate about the metaphysical, but at the same time, again, let's not use words like proof when we talk about the afterlife, because we can't prove that in terms that our minds here and now can understand. I did some looking around on the internet trying to find a book. It turns out that I found my man. He's Dr. Jeffrey Long, and I recently read a book by his that I gave away to somebody else about people who have had near-death experiences, and it was very powerful and very moving, and he went about it as a medical man in a very organized scientific method. He taxonomized all the different experiences, and he reached certain conclusions as objective as he could make them. I admired that little book, and it was uplifting, and it meant a lot to me. But he didn't use the word proof. And I saw some other books on the internet that did. And come on, you can't, in terms that our mind can understand, you cannot prove things that are outside of a realm of experience that our understanding is constructed to deal with. So we're speculating here. I would say about time after this time that it may very well be the sort of time that I discussed previously when I talked about faith and time. It seems to me it could be, I called it a great eternal moment. Think of it as more circular rather than linear. And if we do that, for instance, it does away with this trap of questioning how people can possibly have an afterlife when they'd have to pick out which form they're going to assume. Are they always going to look old as they did when they died, or are they going to be children, or are they going to be 30 years old? If time is round in real time, the time beyond what we inhabit and understand, then we could be all of those. And I will refer to a kind of dream that I've had several times. I don't want to do this too much because people who talk about their dreams get pretty boring pretty fast, just like my old dad, God bless him. But I've had dreams where I've met people that I haven't seen in 40 years. I'm talking to people that I knew in high school, and they look like they did the last time I saw them. They'd have to, because I haven't seen them since. I have no idea what they look like. And they're, I guess, seeing me the way I looked back then, because they don't seem surprised that I'm gray and old. But we are both communicating with the intelligences that we have now. We're mature people. And so somehow how did that happen? But in the dream, there's no question of that. There's no wonder or curiosity about it. It's just the most natural thing in the world. And maybe could that happen in ultimate time outside of these confines that we know so well? Maybe we can be all the things that we were in this life, kind of somehow or other telescoped into one. And if that's true, then maybe we could also, for instance, meet people throughout history and communicate with them on a peer basis. In other words, they would be whatever age we are. They would have, and they would be have, say, a 60-year-old intelligence as ours, a 60 or a 30-year-old intelligence. We could meet them at an equal level. We could even, this is a really curious thought. I don't know when this occurred to me, but I've been thinking about working this into a novel at some point. It just blows my mind. What if you could go to the ultimate reality and meet your parents as they were when they were children? And in some cases, that would explain a lot to some of us who never really understood our parents that well. Maybe they were the way they were because of stuff that went on in childhood. What if we could, what if I could sit down and play with my dad, and we're both 10-year-old kids, and I'm starting to see things about him that I never understood before, and I'm absorbing it with my adult intelligence, and maybe he's giving it out with an adult intelligence somehow too. There are the possibility of things that could happen in this ultimate reality where we don't have these restrictions of linear time are really worth, I think, a novel at the very least. They're just mind-blowing, and they're so uplifting, and there's so many questions that just break our hearts, that nag us, because we can't communicate with those people anymore once they've passed away, but perhaps in the other life we can do all that and we can answer all questions. Well, that's a different topic that I was going to get to later, but I just want to show you how many of the questions that I posed in the previous episode could be answered if we simply don't think of time as linear. We don't have to be locked into that prison. Actually, I think I made a little note to myself. Jesus refers, at least in one place, to our having just one Father. We're all children. We're not in ultimate reality. Granddaddy, Father, Son, those are hierarchies that are broken up in the ultimate truth. And the final point that I just had to make in this episode where I'm talking about how clocks run in heaven, I wanted to work in this idea again. I don't know if predestination is quite the right word, but I did raise the question previously about, okay, what happens when somebody dies too young, say 6 years old, and the person has not had enough time to do things, either good things or bad things? If admission into heaven is dependent upon a record of good behavior, then a little child doesn't really have much of a resume. Or what happens when you're in your heart wanting to change, and you would have changed, but you got cut off by a traffic accident or something, and you just didn't get to do those good deeds? Well, we can, I think, wave those questions aside too, because if the ultimate reality, again, is a great eternal present, if it's this circular sort of construct, then, as I tried to explain before, what is in our hearts, the fire that ignites our actions, is already glowing, and it's going to move us to do certain things in the future, even if the material circumstances of this life cut us off suddenly from the future. The important thing is that that spark was lit, and God will know that, that's going to be that's a reality in terms of the eternal moment. A person might even seem in this life to be a very bad person, but somehow, and this is one of the greatest mysteries that we humans down here on earth have to try to sort through, how can someone who appears to do so many bad things actually be a good person on the inside? We're not capable of reading a heart, a soul, and figuring out how that works. But if time is that one great moment with I call it a spark, with a motive force at its origin, at its nucleus, then that would kind of resolve that mystery. And then, there are people too who do appear to do lots of good things, but they're doing them for self-interested reasons. They're trying to manipulate other people, and they're not really good on the inside. Well, God can see that too, but we can't. So clock time in heaven, since it's not flattened out like ours, since everything comes together, I think that would answer a whole bunch of our questions that to us, as we are, don't make any sense.